Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. Housing, affordability, pricing, market, real estate, etc., has been a topic that I think everyone's been talking around the dinner table, around the coffee pot, water cooler, and on my show. And so I wanted to focus in on Toronto today because we've had some shows on what's happened in cottage country. We've had some shows on pre-construction condos. We've had lots of shows on housing affordability and zoning and things like that. And so I thought we'd check in with an expert real estate broker for the center of the city, Toronto. Her office is in Yorkville. She covers Yorkville and the downtown core. Rosanne Agasee is with us tonight. She is a highly determined and exceptional real estate agent in Toronto. She has been in the business over 10 years. She used to be a vice president of an advertising company, and she was also on the Canada's Shopping Channel. She has got really an interesting background. She studied English at York, but also Japanese, and she enjoys jazz and is a performance artist and a recording artist and a visual artist. So my gosh, what a background. Really quite interesting. Rosanne Agasee, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Brian. Lovely to be here.
Well, it's lovely to have you. So, we focused in on cottage country last week, and people were saying it was down about 30%. And then focused in on sort of rural or suburban areas, 905, and the comment was down 15 to 20%. What about Toronto? You're in Yorkville and Forest Hill, Rosedale, North Toronto, etc. How's the market?
Yes. It depends on who you ask. But if you're looking at the TREB numbers, they're looking at overall housing. So a combination of detached, semis, condos. Then we've got a 5.8% decline in sales. However, pricing has kept up. The average price of that whole collection of homes is about $1,125,000, and that's up 3.5% year over year, same time like October of 2022. We've got a lot of people who are hesitant to get into the buyer's market because of the interest rates right now, but the lower sales price is mitigating the interest rate, the higher interest rate. So we're still seeing
sales. You're saying selling prices aren't actually down. Volume's down, but selling prices isn't actually down. It's up.
That's correct. So pricing is up, actually.
Which would be the opposite of the sort of the information I've received from people in other parts of the GTA and certainly cottage country, which people say is significantly down, with more downward pressure ahead likely.
Yes. Well, we don't know what's ahead. I believe, and the president of TREB was talking as well, as soon as interest rates come down, we'll see a lot more of these people participating, obviously, but who knows when that is going to happen. Presently, we're in the type of market, what I find is in the pockets of Toronto that are very desirable, there's still robust activity. There are still multiple offers. In the properties that I've been selling recently, I had something on the market for a short period of time, not a whole lot of activity. This actually happened with more than one property that we were selling over the last month or so. We adjusted the price slightly and then received an offer. So pricing is up as per the TREB numbers. Sales are down. Not as many people are participating. And then in the pockets that are highly coveted, you have people that want to get in. Cash buyers are king, obviously. And you've got still somewhat of a lively market, but they're very price sensitive. Yep. So if I have a seller client who is interested in selling, very often they'll want to hit the highs that we saw in the beginning of 2022. That market's gone. That's not the way it is right now. However, you can still, if you're pricing properly, you can get a lot of activity, and houses are still selling. Toronto is an incredible market. We have a lot of immigration. We have, a lot of reason why people want to be here. It's a great city, so there's a lot of activity.
So I've been not looking in your area of Forest Hill, Rosedale, Yorkville, but I've been looking at sort of North Toronto, and I get emails of new price, better price, price reduction, and the numbers in the 5 to 10% range. Why am I seeing that in emails and you're not seeing that in the numbers yet, or
Well,
in
you
your
you
volume?
just talked about the areas. What areas are you referring to? Just repeat what you just said.
North Toronto, so north of Eglinton.
Well, okay, so north of it depends on where the price starts, right? If you're starting high, just like I said, I mean, if a seller wants to sell high, you can test the market, which is what I'm always open to do with clients of mine. But I will always let my clients know, we'll see how the market responds. And if they're clamoring to get it at that high price, great. If not, you have to do what you're seeing, and that is adjusting the price. Many sellers are unrealistic still. They have not come down to earth. They want that high number because down the street, someone sold a year ago at $3 million and they think that that's still the number. It's not. So it takes some time and there is an adjustment. What I tell my sellers, which is very important, especially obviously if they're going to be buying, is if you're selling at a lower price, you're also buying at a lower price. You buy and sell in the same market, and hopefully it all works out. That's what I advise my clients.
So what typically happens in a downturn, and I'm not saying it's a downturn yet, but some people think it is that second homes would go first, and the downturn in cottage country would sort of be that first thing, because you want to keep on to the house that you have as your primary residence, and then suburbia would be next, and then condos would be next, and the sort of the more higher end homes closer into the city would be the last ones to show a price reduction. Do you think that that's potentially what's happening?
Well, I definitely believe that the surrounding, the Thornhill, the Richmond Hill, and those areas have come off far more significantly than the central core. The central core has areas that, if something comes up, there are many buyers for it. But in those areas that I referred to, you've got your Moore Park, little pockets in Rosedale, Forest Hill. If the real high end is suffering. Okay, the numbers that I quoted you initially, that's all categories of housing. So it's a big number, it's a big collection. We are finding in the real high numbers, above 5 million, they're sitting for a long time. Days on market is up. And that's
explain to everyone what days on market is, if you could, and what you read from that number being up.
It's taking a lot longer for a house to sell. So a listing can be up for, in 2022, maybe it would be up for 15 days. You would get multiple offers. You would be seeing a lot of activity, like agents listing low in order to encourage a lot of activity, and you would have 20 offers on a property. That's a thing of the past. Right now, that's actually a trend that we've seen there. That's really not happening anywhere near the numbers that it was happening. And it was a major trend, and people had to get prepared to compete. It was a real thing at that time. That's no longer the case. It's a buyer's market right now. So it's kind of it's a quirky market, because what you say is true. Okay, the sales are down. We have a fewer buyers that are able to buy because of the interest rates. So pricing is high, but I think it's being buoyed by the fact that there are certain coveted areas that are still maintaining. And Toronto is an excellent market and, continues to be strong. But there are pockets that are suffering, and there are homes that are sitting on the market. The numbers that I gave you is just that whole big number.
On average, right? Well, we're going to come back in just 2 minutes after a break and chat a little bit more about this and about how to strategize taking advantage of the market, or whether you should just sit on the sidelines. And also I want to chat with Rosanne about condos, because in the center of the city, the expansion of supply of condos is just going to be incredible in the next couple of years. And you have some knowledge in the condo business as well. So stay with us, everyone. We'll be back in 2 minutes with Rosanne Agasee, an expert in the real estate market, real estate broker in the center of the city, center of Toronto this time. Stay with us, everybody. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. My guest tonight is Rosanne Agasee. She's got a really interesting background. She's a real estate broker in the center of the city, center of Toronto, Rosedale, Forest Hill, Yorkville, etc., specializing in single-family homes as well as condominiums. And she's been doing that for more than a decade. But before that, she was a host on Canada's The Shopping Channel. And maybe we'll chat about some of the people that she's had the privilege of interviewing in the past. Kind of interesting. And she's a recording artist and a visual artist. So we got to hear something about that as well. But we're chatting now about houses, condominiums, commercial spaces, etc. Rosanne, I saw your listing of a condominium on Avenue Road, and just I think north of St. Clair. The supply of condominiums in the downtown core, Yorkville, and Yonge and St. Clair, Yonge and Eglinton, etc., is going to increase dramatically. There's a line that says that there is something like 240 tower cranes in Toronto right now, over 200 projects. And when you take a look at the properties that are under construction and or proposed, it is absolutely, unbelievable. And if you take a look at, Yonge and St. Clair, you're going from, 1 or 2 buildings to 10 buildings. Yonge and Davisville, same thing. Yonge and Eglinton, which I thought was already, dense, is going to triple in size. What's going to happen with all that supply?
Well, the thinking is that eventually it's all going to be sold. Right now, it's not actually happening. My developer friends are telling me that it's certainly nowhere near the activity that it was. You're not getting lineups around the block for new builds that are coming up, and there is an enormous number of them. However, on the upside, we've got a lot of immigration, a population growth in Toronto, and I actually believe that with the volatility in the world overall, you're going to see more people wanting to come here because it's calm. It's, there are good reasons to be in Toronto. So they're building, the developers are building because there is the demand for it. Unfortunately, what's happened now with the interest rates are, for those that are buying for investment, the calculation doesn't quite work because they're paying a higher interest rate. The rent they're going to get is not going to cover all of those expenses. So you have that segment of the buyers diminished to some degree.
And a lot of those developer friends of yours that you mentioned, don't they need those investment buyers to get their 70% sold to get their financing? And so what are they going to do?
Some of them do. Yeah, some of them do. Some of them don't. What are they going to do? Maybe they won't build it. We'll see. It'll all unfold. People that are in it, the big developers, have projects and they're going forward, and eventually they will be purchased. That's just the way it is. We're not getting a lot of the Asian market right now, so that's also a bit of a problem. But we still have a lot of people wanting to buy because they want to actually live here, and because the detached or the housing market, let's call it the detached and semi-detached, are very expensive. For affordability, people are buying condos. You've got young families, couple, maybe they don't have kids yet, buying 1 or 1.5 bedroom condos because they can get that for $700,000-800,000, sometimes even less if they don't mind coming really small. There's a new building that I just did a tour of called The Hill, which is in that area that you were just talking about, just south of St. Clair on the west side of Yonge Street. It's a top-up. So the existing building is going to have a top-up of a couple hundred. I can't remember exactly the suite number, but that's not the point that I want to tell you. There is no underground. They're not digging down. And so there's no parking, not a single parking space. And the suites are from 370 square feet to 800 square feet.
My gosh, they're tiny.
Tiny. So
Like
imagine
370 square
an
feet. How do you
number.
fit in that?
That's correct. So that's where, that's the type of thing that, you know, that developer is doing it. They assume that there's going to be a lot of investors. That's really their market. They want the investors to come in. There's no parking, which can add $150,000 to the bottom line of a purchase. And they believe that it is a very desirable area. It's right on the transit line. You're right on Yonge Street. It's a fabulous area. It'll be interesting to see how the sales go.
And quite expensive. What's the price per square foot? Any idea?
1,600.
So that's hefty, but it's down, is it not? I was told that One Delisle, which is just north of Yonge and St. Clair, was up in the 1900 a square foot range. Is that?
But that's a totally different animal. That's a completely different animal. That will be a far more of a luxurious building. It's going to be an iconic design on the outside. It's got everything. You know, the designer is someone very special, and the look of it. That will improve the area. Yonge and St. Clair is really going to become, I think it's one of the best areas. A couple of clients have just purchased a condo in that area. Granted, they were living in the area and they wanted to stay close. I believe that everyone's going to benefit from One Delisle. The Hill, it's an interesting concept. I don't know what the sales will be like, but One Delisle, they're coming up. I mean, if you drive by, it's, you know, they're developing it. It's coming along very quickly, and a lot of people purchased. I have clients that purchased at One Delisle. It will improve that area. Whereas Yonge and Eglinton, I don't think there's any, you know, bad investment in Toronto. Well, there is. I shouldn't say that. You have to be careful. You have to be careful with the builder that you buy, and the location is critical. But Yonge and Eglinton is extremely congested, and I tend to steer my clients away from it. I know some of my clients like it, and we've purchased there, but it is pretty hectic.
Yonge and Eglinton is going to triple in size.
Yeah.
Like I'm astounded. You know, it already, I thought, as you say, is congested with lots of buildings, but you know, there's like a dozen buildings under construction, and like almost 24 buildings proposed on top of the buildings that are already there.
Yeah. Well, it's all based on, you know, these developers are doing it because people want those condos. But it's interesting, you know, I see every morning I receive my listings. Okay. I see what's new in the market, what's come on, and so on and so forth. And there's an enormous amount that comes out in the Yonge and Eglinton area. All the same typical kind of thing that I assume investors are selling because, you know, they're renewing a mortgage. The mortgage rates don't equate with what they're going to get in rent. And they have to sell. But there's an enormous number. There's a huge number of condos that are just sitting in that little pocket right now. But it is a very tricky time right now for buyers, right? Anywhere. So that's why we're seeing certain types of housing still very good, and then others just sitting there, and you can't. And we're switching now out of the fall market into a declining market naturally, because people are starting to think, once you hit November, they're starting to think about holidays. They're not as much into it. The fall market is an exceptional market. And it was, as it turns out, okay. Pricing was up, sales were down marginally, but I think we're going to look at more of a decline now, because just naturally the cyclical real estate market is coming off at this point in time.
There's also a substantial amount of development right in Yorkville, and you say you specialize in Yorkville. And you've got, you know, this 100-story or whatever it is, 200-story buildings right there at Bloor and Yonge. Tell me what you think is going to happen in the Yorkville, Bloor and Yonge area.
There's a lot going on. You've got all along Yorkville, multiple different places. You've got parks. So on the east side of Yonge Street, just across the road there, which is an area that, I don't love. The west is really better if you're going to get into it. But Yorkville is becoming quite congested. And I hear a lot, my clients I have one client in Yorkville proper who is looking to leave. Simply because it's so congested. If you're living on Cumberland, for instance, and you try to get out and there's, a traffic jam on Cumberland, it's very difficult. And then in the evening, it's a whole different thing as well. So people are not clamoring. I don't find people clamoring for it. And I don't believe, I don't know. It's an interesting thing because Yorkville has a cachet, of course, but I think that the savvy buyers are moving a little further north. Like the Yorkville people are preferring a little bit away from that because it's becoming so dense and it's just nonstop. You've got 11 Yorkville coming up. There's just a ton, 8 Cumberland. It's all over the place. And then, then you've got the very high end coming up. So just north of where the Four Seasons is, you've got Schollard. There's something coming up there that's extremely expensive, probably the most expensive building in Yorkville. Or actually, no, there's one coming up at the corner of Avenue Road and Yorkville, the northeast corner, also another. So there is a lot, but I guess the thinking is that we've got the population and they will go. It's just a funny market right now. I do hear some of the developers, especially the housing developments, the houses, people are not coming into the presentation centers at all. It's quiet.
This is for single family homes or for condos?
Single family homes.
Single family homes, really. Different areas have different images, do they not? Tell me about sort of like who's the buyer in Yorkville versus who's the buyer at Yonge and St. Clair versus who's the buyer at Yonge and Eglinton.
Yonge and Eglinton tends to skew a little bit younger. You've got a lot of young people buying in that area, single people that just want to get into the market. You will have some people buying pre-construction, but more often than not, the younger people will buy just something, if they get in at 600,000, a junior 1-bedroom, like a small 1-bedroom or 1+ den, that kind of thing, they'll do that. We've got Yonge and St. Clair is a more mature buyer. There are quite a few older buildings that I like to get clients that are downsizing from homes that are maybe $2.5 million or up to that number, and they want to buy something that's $1 million, $1.2 million, $1.3 million, so that they've got some cash in the bank kind of thing. Yonge and St. Clair has some very good options of older buildings that have larger suites that are low prices, low pricing per foot. And you do have a lot of, it's a more mature area. Okay. Right. And it's a classy area. You're right near Summerhill. Summerhill's a little bit different than Yonge and St. Clair. Summerhill's a gorgeous area. I think it's one of the best. And you've got a lot of condos coming up along the corridor there on Yonge Street. Lots. There's going to be a ton coming up between St. Clair and moving all the way down. And then the Yorkville, it's a mixed bag. You have people that are, mature. You've got people that are young people that want to get in on the small condos, and you have a lot of the options available in Yorkville because it's seen as a very important, and it is. It's a wonderful market to live in. But you have to be ready for it's a lot of noise, and I don't mean that literally, although it is literally sometimes. But it's a good area. It's just different and far more expensive.
So I'm in the market myself personally, and I was told that my kids want to go on King West. I've recently been divorced, and I was told that I got to go either to Yorkville or Humber Bay. And that, if I was still married and downsizing, I'd be going to Yonge and St. Clair. And if I was 20 years younger, I'd go to Yonge and Eglinton. Is there any truth to that?
I kind of think there is. Yes. Well, Young and Eglinton, I just said, I agree with that. It's a little bit of a younger crew.
But not as young as the 20s and 30s that are on King West?
It's a different market. King West is a very different market. Some people like the downtown vibe. King West is as a street is very busy, and it is a young group of people, younger. It's just a downtown group, right? It's a very different demographic. I rarely will have a buyer client come to me and say, well, I'm thinking of either Yorkville or King Street. They're just two different. Yeah, they're two different. And you've got something like Liberty Village, which I put people in as well. It's a whole different animal. We've got a lot of different pockets, and it's really a personality thing. I can tell you, like the areas that you just told me about, I can actually think demographically that they are different age-wise, generally speaking. But when you get into the bigger picture, it's more of a personality thing. Am I a downtown person? Am I a Liberty Village? Am I, the East End? Do I want Leslieville? That type of thing. It's different.
So give me a sense of the strategy that you would recommend. One is trying to figure out the demographics and the personality that you've got to see which part of the city that you want, because you don't want to be, as you said, looking everywhere. You don't want to be looking at Yorkville and King West. So you got to narrow your search. What do you do? Do you particularly in this current market, which is challenging, do you go to bank and get approved for a size of mortgage first? Do you start looking first? Do you just go and shop open houses? Do you get an agent and target up and down a street? Tell me what the strategy is if someone's in the market looking for a place to live.
Okay, I'll give you the secrets, but you're going to use me, right, to buy your new place.
No question.
So what I would suggest, which I suggest to all of my buyer clients, is definitely go and get pre-approved. You must be pre-approved. You must know realistically what you can afford. And then you entrust a good agent who will arm you with all of what you need, the requirements of, everything that you need. That pre-approval is critical. You must know what you're dealing with. And then once you have that, we talk about, the way I do it is I'll talk to my clients about their wish list. What do you love doing? Like, do you love golfing? Do you want to be near a golf course? Do you want to be near tennis clubs? Do you like the club scene? Do you want peace and quiet? Do you want parks? Are you a dog person? We really try to figure out who you are as the buyer, and then we do a search. I put you in a search, and we start to have you look at different homes. We get your wish list so that we understand the basics of what you want. Do you want a fireplace in the property? Do you want a condo? Can you afford a semi-detached or, a townhouse instead? There are all sorts of things to figure out. But once we determine what you want, and we do that by I do that with lots of questions, then we go out and we look. And the looking is critical because it gives you an appreciation of what the market is all about and what you're going to get for $1 in Yorkville versus what you're going to get for $1 in Lawrence Park. Well, they're probably equivalent price-wise, but let's say you wanted to see two different places. It's important to be able to see different places when you're shopping for a home. If you're new to this, and I have dealt with a lot of people who are recently out of relationships, that type of thing, it can be a very exciting thing to figure out what it is that you want. And then when you walk into a home, it's a very emotional thing. You realize, hey, this is what I like. This is what I want. And you circle around the area. We tour the area. We see it. I can see myself living here. And then you go on a real search. And, I prepare my clients as to how to buy properly, how to price, how to make an offer properly. There are a lot of things that go into it. Number one is understanding who my buyer is and what they want. and then I can usually fulfill it for them.
Roxanne, if people, Rosanne, I apologize. If people want to, I was thinking that song, Roxanne, that completely.
Everyone calls me Roxanne.
Rosanne. If people want to reach out to you to check out your services, how do they best do that?
My phone number. Shall I tell you my phone number?
No, have you got a website or social media?
Yes, I have a website,
like
Rosanne at Rosanne Agasee. Oh no, that's my email. Sorry, Rosanne Agasee is my website. Just my
Excellent.
name.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll have my name somewhere, I assume, and people can spell it properly. And you click it, and you'll get to my website right away.
We're going to take a break for some messages and come back in 2 minutes to talk a little bit more about the real estate market. But I'll ask Rosanne a little bit about this. Fascinating that she's a performance artist and a visual artist. Sounds kind of interesting to be combined with a real estate broker. Stay with us, everyone. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. It's a pleasure of mine tonight to introduce you to Rosanne Agasee. What a great first name and last name. A fantastic tennis player, and I keep on wanting to say Roxanne like that. Who was it that did that song, Roxanne?
Sting.
Oh, God, it was a great song.
Great.
You've got an unbelievably fascinating background. You were a vice president of an advertising company. You were a TV host on Canada's The Shopping Channel. You obviously, therefore, have an incredible amount of energy and knowledge of selling and shopping and sales ability. And then you've got a bachelor's degree in English, and you also studied Japanese.
Oh,
and I understand that you are a recording artist and a talented visual artist. You do everything. You probably can't cook, right? That's probably one of the.
I can cook, Brian.
So tell me, what's your recording artist?
Well, I've always been a singer. I sang in high school with a friend of mine, Rhonda. We had a group called Bittersweet, and we recorded back then. My mother's an incredible singer, even to this day. She just sang at my father's 91st birthday recently, and she's got a gorgeous voice. So when I was, I guess, early 30s, I think, or mid 30s, I went into a recording studio to record a 3-song demo, just so that I'd have something to bring around to clubs or bars for a little gig, me and a pianist or whatever. I do jazz, I sing jazz. And the CEO of EMI heard the recording when he went in to see Anne Murray, his client. This was Dean Cameron at the time. And he asked the owner of the recording studio, Barry Labata, who is that? And we'd like to meet her, let her come in and meet with our A&R department, which I did. Most exciting phone call in my musical career was Barry calling me and saying, Dean Cameron wants you to come in and meet with them. And I got a little recording contract with them, a deal where they distributed around Canada. I didn't sell a lot, but it was a lot of fun. I had a manager and I did some touring and I did record a fabulous CD. And it was excellent. It was a lot of fun. And now it's really a hobby that I love doing when I do it, but I'm not doing it a whole lot.
Can we get your CD on Spotify or something?
I know it's available online somewhere. I just don't know where, but you can always contact me. I've got a few boxes.
So I want one of the CDs for sure. And you say it's jazz. Is it
jazz.
Do you follow, like, who would you compare it to from a stylistic standpoint?
Well, it's going to sound like I'm boasting because I'm not. I'm nothing like her, but like a Diana Krall type of music. But it's the classic, I don't have that voice, but I do the American Songbook, and we also do renditions of different, like I actually did a Sting song. That was one of my favorite songs. What's it called? Tomorrow We'll See is the name of it. It's a pretty obscure song by Sting, but it's very good.
Can you sing us a line?
Yeah. I did not expect this.
Okay, never mind. I apologize.
I can't remember the lyrics to that one. Sorry.
And you're a visual artist as well.
Yes, yes.
Tell me about that.
It's just a hobby also. Just a lot of, I like painting. Actually, this I did. This is a big 4x6 piece that I've done
Uh-huh. And when did you get into painting?
years and years ago. I've been doing it for a long time.
And do you sell that in studios or galleries or exhibit or what?
I have, but in all honesty, I haven't painted in a long time. But I have to get back to it now because I promised my daughter I would paint her something. So I've got to set up and buy some new paint, get a canvas, and get going on
You
it.
say you're a sales specialist. Where does the selling ability, the sales capability come from? Is that innate? Is that learned? Is that trained?
No, it's learned. It's learned. My father was an amazing salesperson. My ex-husband, great salesperson. So I learned a lot, and I've had some very good training, and I've had some very good people in my industry that have helped me. And I started in real estate 12 years ago, so this was a complete change in career. From selling on the shopping channel, yes, I'm still selling, but it's an entirely different thing. It's a far more difficult thing selling real estate, and it's a very serious thing. And I've had great mentors. I work with a wonderful office. So I'm delighted at this career. This is really up my alley. But yeah, selling is my thing now. I enjoy doing it very much.
Is there a special type of person that is going to be successful as in sales? I was told, and I have no idea whether this statistic is right or not, but I was told that 68% of all sales agents in Ontario this year have done 1 or 0 sales. So there's a whole,
Yes.
that number is right. There's a whole bunch of agents that don't do a lot of work,
Correct.
or maybe do a lot of
is a
work,
bit
but
of a
aren't
problem.
successful in the end.
I think that number is going to be coming down now because it is harder in the business presently, right? You've got fewer buyers and sellers, and you've got this enormous number of agents, and many of them don't know what they're doing. I don't mean the people that know. I mean, I work with some exceptional agents, and it makes the business and the deals fantastic. But there are, as you just said, whatever the number is, 67,000 or what number. Most of them, the agents that are making the money are the top 1% or the top couple percent. It's not anything in the bottom. You can't do it part-time. A lot of people think, oh, I'll get into real estate and make a few bucks when I want to sell here and there. You can't, because it's really a massive learning curve. It takes 5 years to generate a real business, and you can't just start and all of a sudden you're selling enormous quantities, because it's a lot of information. You have to have the experience, and you have to be able to have a mentorship where you can learn. So it really does take time, and a lot of people don't put in the time. A lot of people don't know what they're doing. So I'm lucky. I'm in the market where I'm 99% of the time I'm working with excellent agents, and we communicate. There's a great camaraderie, but it is a difficult career. It's a lot of hustle. It's 24/7. That's what I am, actually. I tell my clients right away when I start working with them, I'm available 24/7. We'll get you what you want. We'll sell the way you're looking to sell, and they trust me, and I'm thrilled with all of that. I'm lucky.
Tell me a little bit about the shopping channel. You said that you interviewed Ed McMahon. That must have been fun.
It was a lot of fun. He was one of my first guests. I was so nervous, and he put his arm around me and he said, "Isn't she doing great?" And I fell in love with him because I was really nervous. We were selling his pots and pans. I worked with a lot of interesting people. I worked with Ivana Trump, who was extremely beautiful and had legs that were like, her legs were 6 feet tall. She's very funny and very smart. Joan Rivers, another one who was
Ivana, not Ivanka.
not the daughter, Ivana. So the ex-wife, who has since passed away, sadly. She spoke very nicely, very highly about Donald Trump, by the way.
Even after divorced.
Yes, even after that. Joan Rivers was hysterical, always made us laugh.
Joan Rivers, what was she selling?
She had a jewelry line, but she also sold cosmetics, but primarily jewelry. She would come with, an enormous collection. She was one of the best dressers I've ever met in my life. And she really did look amazing in real life. She was so professional, like a consummate professional. She was really something special.
Who was a disappointment?
I don't know. I don't know if I would say it if I did know, but I was never really disappointed with anyone. I had a lot of fun. That was the best part of it, is meeting all these people. My father said to me when I first started there, you would pay them to work there, wouldn't you? And I said, yes, I would.
How long did you do that?
I did that just under a decade.
Fantastic. What a great experience.
It was great.
And you learned a lot about talking and a lot about sales.
I did. Yes, yes. Features and benefits. That's what they called it. Feedin.
We're going to take a break, final break for some messages, and come back with Rosanne Agasee and sum it all together in where the real estate market is going, according to Rosanne, what we should be doing, how you play this market, given what some of the risks are, some of the opportunities, because I think that we've got both of them coming up. Stay with us, everyone. Back in 2 minutes, we're going to wrap it all together. What do you do in the real estate market today? Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. So, as you know, if you've been following my show, I've been really interested in what's happening in the real estate market. I think lots of us in Toronto and the Greater Toronto Area have been. I've done shows with a bunch of development people and lawyers and planners and architects and urban planners talking about some of the zoning issues and NIMBYism and some of the things that the government are trying to do. We've talked about the Greenbelt. But we've also focused in on the actual resale market and pre-construction condo market. And we've talked about cottage country being down 30, some people think even more percent, that 905 and some of the suburbs are down, 10, 15%. And we've been focusing tonight with Rosanne Agasee on the center of the city. And she says it's not down, it's actually maybe up in sales price, down in volume. And so, Rosanne, I got to ask you, if you thought that interest rates were going to stay high for a while. So yeah, they'll come down, like you said, but maybe not for 9 months or a year. So you thought interest rates are going to stay high. There's $250 billion of mortgages coming due next year in Canada. So there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be rolling over, what was really reasonably inexpensive debt that they entered into 5 years ago, which would have been 2019, I guess. And having to refinance it in 2024. And we maybe entered into a recession. And people say, yeah, the declines come first in second homes, and then they come get closer to the city over time. What would you do? What's your strategy? Do you wait and see? Do you look and pounce if that one opportunity comes in? Do you wait for distress sales? Or do you say, Brian, you're crazy, there aren't going to be any distress sales in the better parts of Toronto? Tell me what your strategy is.
Well, timing is everything in real estate. It really is. And you're never going to know one thing, and that is what's coming up ahead. All right. We're not going to know what's going to happen in the future. We have no idea how the world events presently are going to impact everything. And then you've got the interest rates, also an unknown. It's really on a person-to-person basis. It's what you can do. It's what you feel comfortable doing, and what realistically you're going to get from the bank if you do need the bank. So those are more realistic factors to consider rather than what's going to happen. I don't like trying to time, let's try for the fire sale. Believe it or not, I do find great values for clients. There are little tricks to find those fire sales, but you have to be very open and you have to know how to look for them. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. everyone talks about doom and gloom, and yes, maybe what you're saying about the mortgages coming due, maybe that will have an impact. I think it's far less than you think, the number that you think, because it's not, you've got people that are renting, you've got people that own outright and have no mortgages, and then you've got the segment that do have mortgages, and though of those, they're the ones that the ones that are coming due. Can they afford it? But one way to look at it, which I do tell my clients, we had a 0% interest rate for way too long. Interest rates were free. Now they're cheap. So it's, you got to get back to reality here. This is the reality of the day. When I bought a house back in 89, I was paying 12% interest. So, that's a little higher than what we're looking at right now. Interest rates are not that high. And they've been, historically, we've had way higher. So it's just a matter of settling into the realities of the day. It's not a terrible market to buy in. And if you've got the money, if you can afford it, you should buy in Toronto.
I think the other point that you made, which is very true, is relative ends up being really critically important. If you're buying at the top of the market and selling at the top of the market, that's one thing, because you might feel like you're a lot richer, but you're spending a whole bunch of money on an overpriced house. And if you're buying and selling at the bottom of the market, or buying and selling wherever in the market, as long as you're buying and selling.
At the same time, when you get stuck is when you're not listening to your agent, which I had a terrible story. I had a client of mine, they wanted to buy something in the downtown core, and I found them something off market. They wanted to move from the suburbs to downtown. I got them something very special. The market was at a high. They found their dream home. Okay, this was their dream home when we bought it. And I said, time to sell the house up north. And they did not listen. And they waited, and they did little things here and there to their house and touching up and stuff. And by the time they were ready to sell, the new real estate rules came in 2017. And overnight, the market dropped dramatically. So that was a very big error, and there was nothing that I could do. I was pushing. You have to listen to me if you're going to work with me. But there are also great stories, like, what I've done just recently. We sell in the market as it is, and you buy in the very same market. And if I can get something lower for you because, I managed to negotiate lower, people are happy. So that's the way to do it. You have to buy and sell. That's an old rule that if you don't listen to it, you're taking risks. It's a big risk.
Rosanne Agasee, thank you so much for joining us today and telling us a little bit about the real estate market. You specialize sort of in the central core, both single family homes as well as condominiums, I understand. What firm are you with, please?
I'm with Forest Hill Real Estate in Yorkville.
Forest Hill Real Estate. And you can get Rosanne Agasee either directly on social media or at Forest Hill Real Estate. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us. That's my show for tonight. I remind you, I'm on every Monday through Friday at 6 o'clock on 960 AM. You can stream me online at saga960am.ca, and you can stream me even from downtown Toronto in Yorkville at www.saga960am.ca. All my podcasts and videocasts are available on my website, briancrombie.com. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Good night.